We talk about tacos and bears.
So no more bears.
Something on more apartments.
I know. Why is it's not bear tacos?
It's always fun about food. Food is like something you have to take. Embarrassing.
And
Such a mess.
Kasia, can you tell if we have anybody zooming in?
There's no one in there right now.
Okay,
They might be watching.
but they can't communicate with us if they wanted to.
They have to be on Zoom. We did print out the ones and now the purchase.
Mm-hmm.
Double wide. It's like a little boat.
Then it's sort of a lot, but I think it's almost a lot inside. When it's like come back around, we're out, start putting some opposite. We get the bar.
That's fine.
I was actually thinking.
Hi, Rob.
Hi, you are.
Okay,
Hey, Rob.
no. It's okay, but. It'd be fun.
It looks like he's at the beach and the rest of us are freezing.
That's right.
What?
Yeah, so. I just threw this on something and I'll talk to you. So, Mr. Rob.
Colorado kiddo. Ta-da. That's good. We'll just give it a couple minutes and then we'll get going. Nice to have people in the audience.
That'll be more packed.
They represent so many people.
That's what it is, you represent.
They represent.
Each one of you represents 200 people.
Yes.
So that's the calculus on that. Yeah, that's good.
How's it doing?
Getting along.
It's just my paycheck.
It's
very light. It's very light.
Love your sense of humor.
Just like, well, we're doing phone service, so we don't have.
You know, you need somebody dressed up over here, go through town on postcard,
Yeah, that actually wouldn't be a bad idea,
right?
to let everyone know.
Anybody want any candy?
Well, thank you.
Yes, look at that.
There's more candy over here. Members of the audience, if you would like candy, please come up and get your candy. Absolutely.
I'm good, thank you.
Okay, well, it's like here.
Okay. Anyway, we're all.
What, is Jerry showing up? We wanna, give Jerry a shot, I mean, for instance, I don't wanna shortchange Jerry.
All right, well, it's 6 o'clock and we will call this meeting to order. This is a special meeting of the Georgetown Board of Selectmen and it is September 16th, 6 o'clock PM. We're gonna do a roll call right now. Mary Smith. Here. Rich Barrows.
Here.
Alex Sassoon.
Here.
Rob Connell.
Here.
Wayne Gazinski.
Here.
Amanda Cooper.
Here.
Thank you. And I know we have audience members tonight. Before we open, I just want to say that we are here tonight to talk about the recommendation from the Police Force Task Force that for how to move forward in Georgetown. There's a lot of work put into this decision by the task force. It was very difficult. It was much thought out, looked at from every angle. And so this recommendation was hard won. And we are very much looking forward to discussion on the board tonight about that. Some of the members of the board were on that task force, as you probably know. And so, and some were not. So this is the first time the board has met in a special session to talk about that recommendation. We are allowing for public comment this morning, so this after this, whatever time of day it is. And so we will start with that. And members of the audience will have 5 minutes to speak to the topic tonight that is on the agenda, which is the police task force recommendation. Would anyone like to speak? Sure, Lynette Kelsey, you're recognized, and then we'll go to Mr. Terry.
Hi, I'm Lynette Kelsey. I live in Ward 2. I just want to first thank the task force for the hard work that they did. It was very much appreciated. I know it was not an easy thing to work on, and I just want to thank you for all your efforts. Second, I want to just express my own comfort level with either option. I feel comfortable with having the sheriff do our law enforcement. I also appreciate what an in-house, you know, our very own police department would be able to offer. I would hope that the way things evolve, if we do go with the sheriff's office, is that I think they would quickly become very familiar with who's here in town. They recognize faces. They, they they'd accommodate, and I think that particularly if they had specific officers assigned to the Georgetown duty, that would happen even faster. So I am comfortable with either option. I do recognize the financial difficulty in trying to start up our own police department again. When I looked at the figures, it's pretty clear which would be more financially feasible. And I would even say you may have underestimated what the cost for our own department would be, because it may not be realistic to look at it like it would hold flat for 5 years. Typically, our budgets have seen like a 3% increase year after year. And if you look at it that way, you're looking at quite a lot more than what's projected out for that 5 years for our own department. So, which I don't know how the IGA is gonna be structured specifically, but it could make the gap even wider. So, thank you very much.
Well, thank you,
Thank
I
you.
really appreciate that, thank you. Anyone else? Okay,
My
and
name
you
is
are,
Mike Terry,
thank you.
my wife Cheryl. My background, I've had 36 years of law enforcement experience. I worked as military policeman for the first 15 years. And then I worked as a chief for advanced law enforcement training division for the US Army Military Police School. And simultaneously worked as a deputy for Placer County Sheriff's Department. I know this is a pretty tough thing to take on. The community has probably ground a bit of all the different things that have occurred over the past several years within the town. My personal experience, I had the responsibility for executing the highest risk training in probably the Army. We routinely worked with other organizations to accomplish our mission through IGEs. And IGEs and relationship you have with the sheriff's department is pretty well established. I think everybody understands the pitfalls to an IGE. I would first recommend that draft IEG be provided to the public so that they can actually look at it and see what is going to be coming about. Personally, I think Georgetown should be pushing a little bit for perhaps a more of an incentive to bring these 3 deputies on as rapidly as possible. And I hate to say it, but possibly even reach in to the organization, the existing organization, to possibly pluck some of the people that are there so that they'll work for Georgetown portion of that. I think we're comparing apples to oranges, honestly, when it comes to the sheriff's department versus our own police department. We're gonna find out that, and it just seems to make sense to go with the sheriff's department. Just the evidence custodial portion is a bear to wrestle. No pun intended. Yeah, there's just so much to do. So it just seems like going down the line with this IG, with the sheriff's department, just seems like it's the logical decision, but perhaps some additional financial incentive so that we can get these people on board more rapidly. One of the other things that I would seriously consider is they're not total away from duties and responsibilities. If they're supposed to be working in Georgetown, that's where they work. They're not going down to another portion of the county. They work in our community for, based upon the needs of the community that, that's been identified by leadership within Georgetown. There's rumors that are going on about the Evergreen shooting and the police officer that works there, and that he may have, from what my understanding is that he was sick and they had a part-time person come in, but that person may have been pulled away, during that time period, and you just never know when things are going to occur. I think we've been pretty fortunate. I am seeing more and more are in increased, signs of, I don't know,
Nefarious activity.
yeah, like if you walk around the lake right now, if you go to some of the signs, you'll see where, hey, there's no police in Georgetown. And just graffiti that is starting to pop up, then that's where it begins, and the whole broken window syndrome. And we don't wanna be part of that. We wanna get this fixed, so. I really think that we should control that time more so. Should not be left up to the sheriff or the needs of the county. That if the person's supposed to be working here, they need to be working here. Otherwise, we're going to run into problems. I've got some other notes and I'll spare you guys.
No, continue.
Oh,
Please
You're fine.
continue.
Yeah, continue.
Okay.
I like your glasses.
Thanks.
That's pretty sweet.
So under the IGE, I would make sure that we identify what are the penalties gonna be if the IGE is not met. Obviously, we're gonna withhold funding until the people are hired, and if they're already certified, then, and they go straight into work, that's fantastic. They would need to be paid, obviously, if they're going through an academy. But how are we gonna deal with those funds? And how are we going to, if they're not providing what we need, and I don't know how closely you all regulate now, or pay attention to what they're doing, how often you get a read in on what's happening through the blotter or journal or whatever. But if they're not performing as they're supposed to, there needs to be a penalty. And it needs to be outlined within the IGE, or again, we're gonna have issues. People will just come up and say, well, wasn't identified in IGE, so no, we're not gonna do this, that, or something else. That's pretty much all I have. I could dig into more of it, but, I think you guys have done a wonderful job. The town's done a pretty good job. As far as, there's a lot of nervous folks, and I just grit my teeth every time I see I've seen the news agencies report that there's no police in Georgetown. We don't need that. In fact, these people should be not briefing anything at all. They don't need to say those types of things. We have, a pretty substantial, there's probably a lot more watch and warrants that are around the lake every weekend than what you ever want to know about. I don't know how often the Colorado Parks and Wildlife officers are walking around and checking and doing, some form of watch and warrants check on them. I had an issue about 10 years ago. My daughter was living in our house at the time, and talked to the sheriff at that time, and he said it's pretty disturbing. So I know there's plenty of criminal activity up here. It's identified within the report. They're traveling up and down this corridor, I-70, and our town is prime for picking. So moving on this rapidly, we really appreciate you all moving forward and at least getting something done.
If you got some bullet points that you still wanna share, I mean, forward them to us.
No,
Not an email or something.
it's not that. I have to watch my tone. Um. There's just, I have trust issues sometimes, and so the whole IGE thing, and I've got, and I do have experience with IGEs and like I said. We had one course that I was responsible for, and I had talked about this in a previous meeting a little bit. But we had a fleet of over 200 vehicles, most of them were high performance vehicles, and we had an IGE with a mechanic organization and of course another organization to provide us with vehicles on a daily basis and, or if not a weekly basis. And it, you know, sometimes this is just a dumpster fire, it really is, so. But I also understand how difficult it is gonna be to stand up a police department in this town.
Well, thank you.
Thank you.
No, thank you very much. We really appreciate all of your comments, and you're welcome to also send some in, as you know, Rob noted. Any other comments from, no?
We do, I think there's one.
Is there a hand up? Do we have anybody?
There's one attendee online, they have not said anything.
Okay, and if anybody is online and wants to zoom in and make comments, please do so now. Do we have anybody moving over, or I guess we can't really tell, can we?
No one, there's only one attendee on the Zoom right now.
Okay, and they don't have their hand up or whatever. Okay, all right. Well, very good. We will close that portion. We thank you all for your comments very much. They're very, and you do represent 200 people. So your comments are all very well taken. So we will now work on to the work session for the board to review and discuss the report itself, which you've all had in your hands and had time to look at. And so Amanda, do we just want to kind of round robin this?
I don't feel like I should start because I was on the task force.
Okay, so let's start with
More appropriate.
And noted. And how about
Start either.
Dwayne?
Let's me start, because I'll ramble on, I really hear what everybody else has to say.
I kinda wanna do the same thing.
Well, let's start.
All right, Rich, to you.
Barry's always the best to start.
After reading this over a couple of times, and it economically, with training and all that, it seems like an IGA is the best, with the sheriff's department is the best way to go. But I have some concerns, like, I went to one of the other town meetings on this, and the captain really didn't have a lot of answers as far as, okay, are we ponying up 700 grand right away, and then we hope you can some patrols going in Georgetown, and how, and he didn't really have an answer for that, but I'm sure that, and Mike alluded to it, that's just part of the negotiating piece. Cause, you know, you have to be able to, know you have that money available to hire officers and to advertise for them. And I know the other thing, and Mike talked about this, was, you know, what is their patrol, you know, boundaries or that sort of thing. Because I don't wanna see the folks that were paying 700 grand all down in Idaho Springs every day.
Or even on the highway.
Yeah,
Mhm.
so I think there's gotta be some sort of, accountability built in that negotiating. Also, we have vehicles, we have, a piece of equipment they can use to gather evidence, or folks coming in and out of town at the roundabout. I think all that needs to be part of the negotiations. And, to me, those negotiations are crucial, and it'll be interesting to see. Okay, this is your proposal, this is it. Get out your checkbook. If it's like that, then I would have an issue, but I don't think any type of business operates that way.
So Rich, did you get a lot of comments from people in your ward?
No, Mike and I had talked a couple times and had coffee.
No, that's fine. I just wondered if there was any, you know, feedback directly to you as a selectman.
No, and I was very surprised. I've been surprised for a year and a half
Mhm.
that haven't been stopped in the street or Georgetown Market or Circle K or,
Mhm.
having dinner. Folks, as much as there was a firestorm online, as much as there was, posters at one time up
Mhm.
around the town. There were so many times I thought, man, I should just go down to the Boys and Girls Club and get us all football helmets and face masks for a meeting. I haven't seen it, and I just think, for a long time, a few folks have been very noisy about this. But not very rational and not really going through and being an integral part of the process. So, yeah, I haven't had a lot of
Right,
comment from folks, and to be honest, in our ward, there's a lot of folks that are there for a minute and gone. You know, so they don't really have a lot of skin in the game.
Or they don't take that.
That's what I mean, they're just in and out.
right, exactly, second homeowners and whatnot.
Could I ask a question? You can tell me to, go somewhere else, but, so. While the sheriff's department has been providing the town with law enforcement capability. So if they write a ticket in town, where's that revenue going? Is it coming to town or is it going to
No.
county or?
It's going to the county.
Currently, it's.
Okay,
yeah.
So that would be, if you have your own law enforcement organization and they wrote a ticket for, pick a violation.
Yeah,
Where does it go? Does it go?
yeah,
If we have our own
To the town.
department, it goes to the town.
right,
So why can't the IGE say that money while they are on patrol for Georgetown, it comes to Georgetown?
right. So it's one of the things that we want to do, and that's a great idea. And I think if we get to the point where we need to negotiate an IGA, those are perfectly fabulous points to be talking about. One of the things I want to make sure we do in this session is make sure that we have every selectman talk about the choices. It's a binary choice right now, right? Are we gonna go with our department or are we gonna go with the county? And it's so tough. And I think your points are absolutely spot on and they're great. So if you don't mind, at this point, I'd like to contain it to that, if that's okay. Okay, and
The other thing is that I have appreciated that, the transparency, because the sheriff's department's been coming to one of these. We know how many calls they're answering, we know when they're on patrol. And that was information, for some reason, when we had our own police force, we could not get it on honest answer. And so, to me, that also shows a level of professionalism, and I think the other piece is that with the sheriff's department, you're also getting that, chat team to answer mental health type issues that come up. And they're familiar with them, they train with them, they work with them, and, I think that would provide, a good quality piece of service to the town too.
mhm. Thank you. Mary, we'll stick with Ward 3.
So I was a member of the task force and I was the dissenting member of the final recommendation. As you all know, I have a background in law enforcement myself, so I look at it from a different angle. You've heard most of that. I want to bring up a few other things that I am concerned about as we continue this discussion that's out, that hasn't been necessarily addressed in the materials that we've been presented tonight. But I would like to address your chat piece with the county. That's a county-wide response,
Right.
and they respond to Idaho Springs. So it isn't just specific to the sheriff's office. If,
And they're asking more funding in the next election cycle for that. So I think that could be also a bone.
but that's a county-wide response outside of the sheriff's office too, so it isn't
Right.
just specific to the sheriff's office. So if we had our own local department, that would be an additional service that would be provided to us, just as Empire or Idaho Springs or those are the other two municipalities. One of the concerns that I've mentioned to a few people is our town code. And Um. It does indicate that there shall be and is hereby established the Georgetown Police Department. And I also accept the fact that had we started off on this mission to explore this option, looking at that first, probably should have been a primary piece of information of research that was presented to us all when we decided to put this together. So I'm sure if we go with a sheriff's office option, there's a way around that. I'm not a big fan of changing code just because it fits the flavor of the day. But I want us to be aware that right now, our charter and code indicates that we're supposed to have a police department. I just want to remind us all and our new police judge and new selectmen that it was never our intention when we had our issues with the police department to dismantle the police department in any kind of permanency. That was not our goal. Most of us know the unfortunate set of circumstances that we went through. Lynette certainly knows as our former police judge. And, we took the route we took for the circumstances at the time, knowing that we had other situations that we needed to deal with. One ultimately was bringing on a new town administrator. I think we can all sit back now and in hindsight say, wow, we should have done it this way instead. I think we all kind of beat ourselves up on that. And I know I do. It's like, why didn't we do it? Well, it's easy to money morning quarterback.
I think we did.
No, I think we could have done better.
We followed the process.
Yeah, you
Yeah.
did, you followed the process, and I mean, if nobody had a crystal ball, and hindsight is always 20.
And I think we could have driven it a different route.
Right. So let's,
We have dragged this process out where we could have had something in place and not kick the can down the road. We thought we were doing the right thing. It made sense to do it at the time, made sense to bring in a new town administrator because the other one went and took a different path that we were a part of, but I think we could have done it different, but it doesn't make any difference now because now we're here, okay? And we're so concerned about getting something in place now. If you look back, this has been going on since October. This is a year, folks, 11 months and even longer if we want to extend that. But to me, the primary piece is that we never intended to dismantle our police department.
Yeah.
We thought we were bringing it back. That was our goal and, with the right people. Another thought I have, and this has come up with the fire authority, and I just want us to, look at all these different pieces or factors that can affect us. I know with our own property insurance, our ISO rating is dependent with fire authority and their response and the type of equipment that they have, and that impacts our property insurance. And even if you rent, it impacts your rent because somebody is paying the property, insurance on that. I don't know how not having our own police department impacts that. And I don't have the magic answer to pull some out of my back pocket and to be able to respond to that. But I would like us to find out what that impact is. Because if it's not affecting us in our tax dollars or a potential increase if, oh my God, if that's where it goes to provide our own police department, we're paying it in some way, shape or form. Or are we paying it in some way, shape or form? So I just think it's worth looking into. When we talk local department, we are talking a culture that we have influence over. And if we go with the sheriff's office, we lose the control of that culture. Do we know what the sheriff's office requirements are and what that intrinsic piece that they're looking for in their interviews? When we all sit through the interview process for any kind of a job, why did they pick you and not you? And you're both experienced. You're looking for the right fit. And we are handing over that opportunity for the right fit for our community to the sheriff's office, who has a broader scope and responsibility to provide for Clear Creek County, and not necessarily, they could be, but they may not be, and we won't have any influence on that. We're not sitting on, and it isn't even a matter of sitting on the hiring panel. We will not have that type of control. We will not have that type of influence. And so I think these are all factors that we need to consider in addition to just the bottom dollar, which holds a lot of weight. And the information that was presented that, you know, we can beat ourselves up and discuss until the cow comes home. I think they come home every night, don't they?
That's the rumor.
But, so, that's my position. I'm not quite sure where we're going with this, but I really take issues when it says we lost our police department. Do we find it under a rock? You know, but I think that sends a message when we lost it. Oh my God, what happened to it? Is it like a lost dog? No. You know, there were factors that came to that, and that's, to me, that's concerning. So. That's what I.
Well, thank you. No, we appreciate that. But my thought is that we're gonna go, take everybody's comments and then discuss.
Perfect.
That's gonna work.
Keep rolling.
Okay.
I'll go now.
Okay, Amanda, yeah, go ahead.
Cause I went opposite.
That's why I like to do, that's why I want to hear you two guys first.
So I was actually,
Sorry.
I vacillated really hard in the police task force stuff, and it is hands down the most difficult decision I have made as a select. But my caveat is, from where I sit, time and money are incredibly important factors, primarily time. And time is the one that really kind of put me firmly in the sheriff's office camp. And Mary, you're 100% correct. We didn't intend, when this all started, the intention was never like, well, that was fun, we should just go with the sheriff's office now. It unfortunately sort of evolved that way. And I do believe, though, that the sheriffs are going to be the most stable option for us. And if we can get into a 5-year, I said between 3 and 5 years, I know they wanted a 5-year IGA when they came to their presentation for us, I think we could negotiate that. I think it would give us time to kind of get all of our other infrastructure under control. And that's really, for me, kind of the big sticking points is, you know, there's so much that has to happen in this community. And so many things, and I don't think it's respectful to say, like, that we're not gonna have police coverage. We have a personal feeling that we get, a warm and fuzzy feeling we get when we see a police car. That makes everybody kind of go, okay, well, I'm safer now because there's a policeman out there and I know that person, and that's somebody that I can go say hi to, and they come to my kids' school and they come eat at my restaurant, or they go, you know, to all the community events or whatever. I'm more focused on the immediate logistics of law enforcement and then getting that warm fuzzy feeling. Come, you know, as it evolves and becomes attainable. We can't, even in the framework that was presented to us, we're paying 40% below what the sheriff's office is paying. Cause we were coming in at 60,000 for officers. Sheriff's office is paying 90. Our neighboring municipalities are all from Idaho Springs, Blackhawk. I did salary studies all the way to Summit County. They're all into the 80s to 110s is what deputies are making. We can't touch that. We will not get to that point for a long time. And so even if we do go the route of a police department, I am concerned that we can't staff it because we're paying so much less. I'm concerned about our reputation to find a chief. We've struggled with our staffing for high level positions. We were very lucky in our last round that we were able to get a qualified, you know, town administrator who's competent and who's here, who's doing the job, and we're really, really pleased with him. But we've had some struggles in that regard, and I have concerns about elongating this further and further, because we're looking for a person. And so those two logistical challenges alone, I find concerning. And to me, it makes the sheriff a much more viable option. My hope is that as this IG evolves, that, and this was something that was brought up by people who were part of us once upon a time, our organizations, was that maybe that next chief is in this group of people. Maybe that person works for the sheriff's office, and at the end of this IGA, sheriffs were like, hey, you know what, it's not really working for us. And we're more stable. But I think if we can buy ourselves 3 to 5 years to get our stuff together, to get our town stable, to get our other infrastructure issues under control, to grow. We have economic challenges, we have challenges with our road and bridge, we have a huge wastewater project and water sewer project we know is coming down the pipe. We don't wanna necessarily have to do big tax increases. We're comfortable financially right now, but it's not like, you know, as I said in the last meeting, buy everybody pony money. It's like, we're okay. We have an emergency, but we can't rest on our laurels. I think the sheriffs are professional and are willing, and I was highly critical of the sheriff's office, as you are all aware, in the meeting where I was very angry about their IGA poll. But as we understand what occurred with that and how that came to be, I am much more comfortable with them doing law enforcement for us. I think that they're showing up now in ways that are positive to show the community that they want the job. They're doing, right now, our coverage is 0 charge to the town. All that they're doing an hour a day of patrol, which is obviously, we want more than that, but they're responding to all calls for service and they're not charging us for that. And then the previous model, they were charging us at the time and a half rate, which I also thought was really fair. Well, we kind of figured our stuff out. And lastly, all of the logistics of the department's operations, I agree, I don't think we have enough, even in the current projection model, to cover all of those challenges: evidence collection, sex offender registration, court costs, all of the things that the sheriff's office has people there doing today. I don't love it. I don't love that we're giving up control, but I would 100% go to bed at night knowing that we're okay. And I don't think it's not that they're not gonna cover us, and I know that there's concerns. If there's something, we'll take the evergreen incident. It is highly likely that if that call for service came over the radio, the Georgetown guys are probably gonna go. Like, but that would have happened in any circumstance.
Mhm.
You know, we have an ambulance that leaves town probably 4 or 5 times a day. And then if we have another medical emergency, we have to get another ambulance from Gilpin. They put Gilpin on standby for us probably 3 or 4 times a week, maybe more. I don't know. I'm not reprised to how the emergencies.
They're doing a lot of calls.
Gilpin runs a lot of calls for us, and
It goes both ways.
we run calls for Gilpin.
Right.
Yeah, it goes
You
both
know,
ways.
I mean, we can't, I do know that there is a very important need to have presence, visible presence, very important. And I think we could build to that faster and more professionally than if we try to go from scratch right now. However, I would support the board if that was what happened, but my 2 cents is I'm very firmly planted in the sheriff's office being the best and most viable option for us to restore the other infrastructure issues we currently have to deal with.
Thank you. Thank you. Rob, I'm gonna go to you if that's okay. You're Ward 1 also. And also, and I forgot to ask Mary, but I do wanna come back to that. If you have heard comments from your constituents, you know, be sure to include those as well. I'm assuming you have.
I probably mix that, I'm trying to think who I've spoken to.
I like the fact that you're the lightning rod. Nobody talks to me.
Thanks. I'm sending you. Everyone knows where to find me on Friday and Saturday. I'm easy to
That
find.
could be it. Yeah, you're easy to
Yeah.
find.
We have a population in this community who have said to me that they want a local police department, they feel safer with that. And it is the older end of the population. Maybe it's just their could be a false sense of security, but they feel more security with a local police department. There are other populations that we could name. I wrote, will also address that they would be more comfortable with the local police department.
So those are the comments you've heard, local police.
I think that I don't discount, and when people have said to me, I would really prefer a local police department. My challenge back is, will you pay more for it? And they're like, oh no,
We don't want to be more.
and I'm like, are you good to wait 18 months for it? Safely, like 18 months, that's the conservative. Probably ballpark, and they're like, oh no, and I'm like, or. Are you good if we have the sheriff's office on board by November 1st? And they're like, well, that's something. So when you put it in a way that people are like, oh, it's gonna cost me more, my property taxes are potentially gonna go up, we already are coping with. A huge frustration over property taxes in Colorado, which some of us find laughable if you've lived other places where your property taxes are bananas, but it is an important factor. In how people live here, and we have people on fixed incomes. When we have to go in for a mill, and you know. I was kind of trying to look and see what the actual fiscal impact for us would be. If we did a mill on, say, half of the money. And I don't have enough data to quantify that, but it would impact people financially, and we're already squeezing. People are already suffering financially, that's just a fact.
If the sheriff's office is paying $90,000, let's use that figure, it's a nice round number.
Yeah.
You don't think that they're not going to pass on that same cost to us if they're indicating to us that they're gonna hire 3 additional officers to be able to cover for Georgetown services? Or are they
They
gonna
were
give us a
clear as day, but they were
discounted rate?
memorizing that on 5 years.
So
That was 100%, now we haven't gone to negotiation with them yet, but they said. Clear as day, you were there, I was there, and they said 5 years, 633,000. And that was, we said, are you gonna increase that on us? And they said, no. What if we have to?
It's the same lack of communication that we experienced when we had, this is great, don't you love this debate here? It's the same lack of experience, communication that we had when we had the sheriff's office telling us that they were gonna deliver a certain way. And we had other county officials providing a document to us, the IGA or the MOUs, that were indicating otherwise. And so we have this, we don't even have a clear line of communication with the county. If you're talking about our infrastructure here and what our plans for Georgetown are, please, let's look at our neighbors, the county, because we also know that they are going through similar struggles that we just went through. And so their focus is going to be probably on their county manager, as ours was on our town administrator and other infrastructures and other positions that they have. And I think Georgetown is gonna be the last thing that they're gonna be thinking about. I don't know this, I'm just.
Well, what?
Speculating.
So one thing I wanna do is give everybody a chance to speak before we get into our
Before
debate.
Mary and I yell at each other more.
Well, before we may or may not have debates about this very emotional issue. So Amanda, you're, okay, you're good. And so Rob?
Okay,
Are you-
yeah, no, my take on this was that, more or less time and money thing. But, I wanted it to evolve, and, I'm talking in generalizations here first, but, I really wanted the, immediacy of the sheriff's department, but with a timeline that we were going to establish a local, a local PD. And that, in that timeline, I think that it would be evident that, it's going in the right direction or the wrong. And so I would think that, it's one of those things like nobody's got a crystal ball, but let's, try our best to, whatever the IGA is, make sure that we have all those covenants that are very important to us, like, presence in town, I don't know, didn't, do they eat at your restaurant? Is that okay in uniform? I mean, is that, or are
They
they?
get to-go food, I mean, it's, if they came in and, yeah, no, they come in and pick up orders.
Right? Oh, I
They don't
just
sit in the
wonder,
bar while they're working, that would be weird.
that's probably bad, yeah, no, but I just thought, my take on this was that. You know, we do need something quick, and if they are willing to take that upfront cost and amortize it, which I remember that, you know, that. That seems to be the path of least resistance and the easiest means to an end. And being, we have our own police department.
So in 3 to 5 years, I won't be sitting on this board, you may or may not be, I won't be here anymore, I'll be over there. So I won't have a say in it anymore, other than Joe Blow citizen, I love you, Joe Blow citizens. That, so how are we going to have a 3-year, let's go to the low end, a 3-year contract with the sheriff's office? And and not have that same cost coming into us for that overlap, then to bring on our own department, we're gonna hire somebody and say, we're gonna pay.
Well, no,
Okay, hang on.
So we're still gonna have that,
No, I
you
agree,
know,
but I was more or less thinking that these sheriffs would morph into our police department. Because that is their impression, or that was their plan, was basically to section off 3 officers and call them the Georgetown Police Department.
Well,
Right, so
so
I don't wanna- yeah.
so let me, they're not, so it did say that they would dedicate vehicles, probably our vehicles, I would imagine.
Yes.
That they would put on the vehicles Georgetown Patrol
Right.
or something, that may not be verbatim, but something to indicate they were Georgetown specific.
Yeah, it was gonna be on their uniforms. it
On
would
their
be
uniforms and
dedicated.
their vehicles, but they are employees of the sheriff's office, that's a really
Yes.
important distinction.
Oh, no, right.
They're not, they will not, and
They don't-
I don't think they're gonna just hand us like 4 people in 3 years and say, have fun with them, we'll miss them. I do think that there's a possibility we could, as we do IGA reviews, so the way that I envisioned it, like after I kind of, the time frame sort of made me step back. If we did a 3-year IGA, for example, I know they said 5, and they maybe are gonna say it's 5 or nothing. We will have to, if we do, again, we gotta negotiate my GA. With a 6-month termination clause on either end, that would allow us a trapdoor. So if somebody's like, this isn't working, and if the sheriffs are like, yeah, we can't do this for you anymore, we get 6 months to get it, you know.
So one thing we wanna do right now is we don't wanna negotiate the
No,
IGA,
correct.
right? Because we can't go down that road until we know if that's the road we're going down. So, Rob, did you have further?
No, go ahead,
Comments? No, they were good. So you were county.
I was more or less, you know, it was my understanding from when they made their presentation that. One, they were going to amortize it over 5 years, but
Mhm.
also, they were going to also not provide, maybe I'm using the wrong words, but. Pretty much section off 2 or 3 officers, and they would have been dedicated Georgetown officers.
Right,
However, they would have been employees of the sheriff's
that's
office,
right.
wholly owned,
Yep.
you know, and with no. But I mean, maybe in the IGA, we might be able to carve out some reporting outlines and some
For sure.
reporting, you know, some reporting.
Like accountability, like they
Right.
have to, some demonstrable.
And just make that road. The
And-
idea is that we're not gonna be here, right?
Mhm.
That sheriff's probably not gonna be here. We ought to make sure. We ought to make sure that if we have a sheriff change and, you know, we get Buford T. Pusser and he disagrees with what we say. Then, you know, we have a covenant that protects us.
Right, and that would be the
And
IGA.
that's.
Right. Thank you. Thank you. All right, Dwayne?
Awesome, thanks, you guys,
You are
because I
Ward
love to
2.
hear what everybody has to say.
That's
Guys, I made all kind of good notes, I never make notes. So here's what I've been thinking about, in the last 10 years of living here. How many times have we ever had a full police department? And even when we had 2 officers, we were never protected 24 hours a day. We're never gonna get that, correct? Am I wrong in that thinking?
We had some bad things.
Well, but and at times we've only had 1.
Whoa.
Nice.
Oh, I think, and I had, I put it that 9%.
I think someone else is weighing in here.
Yeah. So my point being is this, we've had, a lot of times we've only had 1 officer.
and we've gone through officers. And we survived, being sold on fear through the whole process of what we put in place for hiring a chief at that time frame. It didn't seem to be a problem with all of our locals, that we all felt protected. Even though at times I was sold on this massive fear, or crime during those times when we had 3 officers seemed to be huge. I've also worked with guys that leave their tools in the job sites and such, and amazingly enough, they're still there and they don't disappear. Our cars disappear, but not our tools. I think we have to be careful on how much we're sold in that fear because it will consume us, like it has social media with everything going on right now. When I look at, you know, had we have had our chief from a year ago, would we be in a different place right now? Would we have found 2 more officers? Maybe we would have, maybe we wouldn't have. Maybe it'd be like it had been in the last 10 years of just having 1 other officer or 2 officers. And yet we survived. We've had the sheriff's department help us, and Idaho Springs obviously help us. Which kind of takes me to the sheriff's department. You know, I'm not saying that they can't be great. The whole idea of, oh, we have to have them right now, I just don't like being put in that position. Yeah, I'm with you, Mary. Sure, a year ago, we probably should have jumped on. We probably should have hired a temporary chief. But if you look back at our process, it's the same reason. When we lost our chief, we put a temporary chief in place. Why did we, you know, hire officers then? Because we wanted our chief to choose that. Why didn't we hire a chief a year ago or do a temporary chief? Because we wanted our administrator to be a part of that. Our actual administrator that we're gonna hire. I think we followed a process for good or bad. The idea of once again being sold in that fear all the time, I have to step away from it, like with social media and such. And you know what? You know, I get what probably goes on around the lake, but I bike and I run around there all the time. I run on the trails. When I leave the fear out of place, it's awesome. When I was sold on fear from our last couple of chiefs, it made me fearful to let my wife go for runs by herself. Yeah, does crime happen? It happens. Some of the stuff that happened at the school. I'm glad our sheriff's department went there. I'd want our own officers to go there if that was possible. Just like I would want other areas to come here. When I look at the sheriff's department, it's the way that I look at the county right now. Maybe I'm very judgmental for a lot of reasons, but I don't. We can sign the IGAs, we can do everything, but what happens when they come to us and go, you know what, plain and simple, we just can't do this because we don't have the money. I don't know how we hold them accountable. You know, sure, in 5 years, I can give somebody a deal on half of their house. And it can be the cheapest thing in the world and go back later and be like, sorry, I'm bankrupt, or I can't afford for this, or you gotta pay me more. Maybe that doesn't work like that in government. I kind of think it does nowadays. So I don't trust the long term. I get what you're saying, Amanda. It makes sense that, yeah, we can revisit it. We're never gonna revisit this again. If we go to the sheriff's, it's the sheriff's. That's permanent. Jerry mentioned it to us how many times? Be careful, because once you lose it, it costs way too much to get it back. He's dealt with other areas. I can't remember when that conversation was. It was back when we started discussing this with hiring a chief. I have a lot of concerns. I love the sheriff's department. I love their officers. I've met a lot of them. I think they're great. They're gonna take care of themselves first. You know, they could put people towards us, but then can they hire those people? Can they find those people to work for us? Can we? You know, that's huge. Cost, it costs what it costs. You know, I mean, we discussed that when we were hiring an administrator. I think at the end of the day, we probably paid more than what we anticipated. I made that point. You know what, it costs what it costs. What do we need to pay to get what we want? You know, too many people that I know really, for whatever reason, they want their own police department. And I get what you're saying, Amanda. I've said the same thing and they're like, well, wow, but I don't want to guilt them into it either, or going, well, you're just gonna have to wait, it's just gonna cost more.
It's not guilt, that's fact.
It's fact in a sense of, it's fact, right? What is the sense of how long you're gonna wait for it, right? If we have to wait for our own police department, sure.
And it's gonna cost.
But when you take that away from somebody, like a year goes by fast, you mentioned it, well, it could be 3 to 5 years, we're in a much better place, then we bring our own police department back. But then do people even care anymore? People only care about being protected and how they feel protected, and that's why I mentioned that. When I'm not being sold on fear, right? And so if I trust an idea of having our own police department, it feels more, I feel more like I'm gonna be taken care of. I get the sheriff's department's like,
You're saying the police department.
yeah, I mean, at this point I am.
No, keep talking. I'm sorry, I just want
No,
to.
yeah, it's just because I wish I was in a better way. I look at Georgetown's budget and I trust their budget. And I look at what we have. When I look at the county, I don't trust a lot of stuff that's going on. I mean, people could say they don't trust us because look at what we've had change in the last year, so be it. You know, but financially, we're, and I feel like a rock solid place. When I look at the county, everything affects everything. We have to be concerned about that. That's how I look at my eyes. Do I like the sheriff's department? Do I think they've done awesome? Sure, but it's still not our own police department we can manage. But I really, like for you, Dennis, I mean, this is what you're being taken care of. So how do you really feel like one versus the other? Because that's kind of like what I need to hear to really make a full decision
Yeah,
on how, you know, so I mean, that's.
we're gonna go round robin.
Yeah, so it's, I get the staff work, like, that's one thing I'm not considering, how much more work the staff has, if we have our own, if we have somebody else, which way they lay in. I gotta hear that first, I mean, in my heart, yeah, I want our own police department, but, you know.
Have you gotten more comments from your ward constituents? Not much.
A few people change their mind literally every day. So I just kind of like take it with a grain of salt. I listen to everybody and I respect what everybody has to say.
Sure.
But it changes every day that I can't keep up on who they really want, so.
All right. Well, thank you. Thank you. All right, Alex.
I would. Let me ask Amanda and Mary and come back to a point that you just made. The 633,000 from the sheriff, you say that's cast in stone?
That was what they presented to us.
So that's the cost each and every year.
That was, yep, that was how they.
3.2 million.
Dennis can attest.
The 3.2 million is not going to increase
Correct.
under any sort of circumstances.
Not as long as we're in IGA.
Alex, I don't like the way you put that,
I know, it's very threatening.
because there are circumstances that I could dream up right now that would be a reasonable way of asking for more money.
Yeah.
That we would voluntarily say, here, we'll pay you more money.
Yeah.
Right, just like if, here's an option, here's one that we would say, hey, we wanna have 4 deputies, not 3. The counter to that would be, instead of a police department with 3 police officers, we want 4 officers, right? So it's a cost increase for both options.
Right.
Yeah, law enforcement goes up the same.
But that would also be the case if we had our own police department.
Sure. That's what I just said. Yep.
So, to my mind, it's probably unreasonable to consider the 3.2 million from the sheriff's department is cast in stone.
No, it's cast in stone unless we change the scope. Just like the conversation we had about the road projects, right? The road project cost was not to exceed a fee unless we change the scope of the project. So if we change the scope of the IGA with the sheriff's department, as an example, we tell them we want 4 deputies, not 3, the cost will change.
Sure.
If we don't change the scope, it will be $3.2 million.
So, when you consider that, if an officer is being paid, just rounded up 100 grand, right? And say that we have taken Mike's suggestion of incentivizing them in some way with perhaps a sign-on bonus or something like that.
Which you just change the scope.
Yes, yeah, absolutely.
Alex, can I ask a question on that? What happens if the sheriff's department, we have budget cuts, like massive, who knows what, but like the county has right now, they're having massive budget cuts. What happens at the sheriff's department if that happens?
Hiring freeze.
Well, but I mean, but are we still, yeah, maybe that's a better question, but are we?
For those that come to the swing.
So let's let Alex finish his comments and we're gonna get back to this. Make a note, because we wanna get back to that. Go ahead, Alex.
So, you know, you have deputies who basically have a 5-year time horizon or a 3-year time horizon, whatever it is, to perform their duties within our community. And we're essentially not expecting them to ask for a pay raise.
The way that I understood the sheriff's office presentation was that if they leverage this into a 5-year plan for us. That they would buffer out some of the costs. It's kind of like, I'm not explaining this very well. It's like kind of like going to Costco.
They're built in a margin.
Yeah, they've built in a margin. It's like buying in bulk, like we're going to give them 633,000, we'll just say January 1. And are we going to expense 633,000 from their department next year? I don't know, I mean, that would be between them, but and how we negotiate the IGA, but if they, that's their evidence technician, that's their deputies, that's the deputies' benefits, that's the gas for the cars. So they have a formula built in that has a margin, yeah, that would be the best way to quantify it, and within that margin, they're gonna figure it out, and they're gonna use our money towards their budgets. Like, let's not mistake that, they're gonna take our 633 and they're probably gonna go spend
It
on
goes into the
county
general
stuff,
fund.
it's gonna go in their general fund. We can't control that, we can only control the response we get from the people that are assigned to our community through the IGA. Does that make, I don't know if I explained that very well.
I mean, it makes sense, but
Well, he has some other comments here, so let's.
The other thing to note is that the county administrator was the one that did the number crunching on the proposal. So if you think that the county sheriff was the one that put the cost proposal together in a vacuum and then brought it here, that's not true.
That makes me more nervous.
So
So,
county administrator who's no longer there.
Yeah, exactly.
so Colton was the one that attended the proposal presentation, and Colton was the one that followed up with any questions we had on the numbers
So is the trust the same?
and explained the amortization and.
He's the finance guy for the county.
But if it's bringing back the IGA, we're talking about potential negotiations and trying to add some clauses to this. As have been suggested, or as we look at this down the line, we're reopening up that whole IGA, which also gives them the opportunity to make changes. Just because this was a handshake and said, oh, but here's our offer, and here's our dollar amount, and we're holding on to that. And so we've also had the opportunity to be like, and what if all of a sudden those numbers change? Are we back here in 2 months because we've sat down with negotiations and all of a sudden those numbers have changed and they've risen significantly?
So let's let Alex finish his comments. Go ahead, you had other comments, Alex,
Sorry, Alex.
regarding PD or county?
Yeah, I'm a numbers guy. That's my background. Right. So I look at what the chief, no, he's not a chief, is he? He's
Sure.
a sheriff, thank you. What the sheriff said is that the proposal is essentially 3.5, 3 deputies plus kind of him.
No, a patrol sergeant,
A patrol
a
sergeant.
sergeant, a supervisor.
Okay. Doing 144 hours per week. Well, if it's 4 of them, that's 36 hours per week each. If it's 3 of them, that's 48 hours per week. Is that enough? Particularly when we consider that our greater need may perhaps be on a weekend.
So they quantified that a little bit, and I'm curious, do you guys know how many calls for service we get?
Well, let me get to this.
Okay.
All right,
Because they.
do we actually have all of those stats? Because I've seen some stats earlier in earlier meetings, right? But do we actually have the stats which compare 23 October to October with 24 October to October with 24-25 October to October in terms of, let's just call it crime, which encompasses everything from a traffic offence to somebody murder. Yes.
So Jack over there.
Do we have that?
So I will tell you.
So what I'm trying to get at, has crime decreased or increased? When we haven't had a technical police presence? a physical presence on the police
Okay,
department.
so you're wanting to know without the police department, and while we were under the, use of the county IGA has crime increased, that's
Yes.
what you're asking.
Yes,
Or looking at Amanda, because Amanda always has her laptop and I have the stats all the time.
So here's what I can tell you, Alex, and that's a very good question.
Loves that segue.
I get to use the data. I know, here it is. So the stats we have are all JeffCom related stats. I don't know where the stats are prior to JeffCom. Unfortunately, I wasn't on the board then. They're a little harder to nail down. But if you use statistics, the data collected from JeffCom 911, who is obviously the dispatch, and I think that's another really important caveat. Everybody has to understand some of the issues that occur that sometimes get slighted towards EMS or first responders is actually more of a JeffCom situation, but we have zero control over JeffCom. As long as we are in this county, we could, yes, eventually have our own dispatch, but it would be clunky, weird,
And
expensive.
10 years down the road.
Couldn't get to a place where
Right.
we could talk to all the agencies have to be spoken to, so JeffCom is the vibe, and that was the county's
Okay.
decision. So, we average, 56 calls is what we had in July of 2025, that's the last set of data. Now, in this number 56, if the call occurred at the jail, it's in our statistic because it's in the town limits. Doesn't mean, even if we had our own police department, they would not respond to that. But so the sheriff's office actually, at our request, will take out the call data of jail calls and give it to us. But this report is a public report, the last one we have is July 25. They haven't, they're usually about 30 days behind. The top 5 problem major calls that went in, so there was no priority 0 calls, which is like DEFCON 20.
Go ahead,
My-
say it again, Rob, go ahead. Say it.
There was, in the entire month of July, there was 3 priority 1 calls, which is almost murder. Counting up priority 2s, mostly what we have on here is priority 2 and priority 3 calls, and then the P4s don't usually make this sheet. The top problem natures, does anyone know what the problem natures were?
Go
for
ahead
tax
and
enforcement?
share with us all, please.
Follow up, which is, just them like circling back on an investigation, was 6 calls. Welfare check was 4, verified alarm was 3, leash law violation was 3, and citizen assist was 3. Those are our top 5 calls. So, to the points of some of the feedback we've had from citizens, it's really important and really valid, is that there's probably some opportunity for some proactive patrols. And that is not a priority for the sheriffs right now.
right, but that's great for July.
Alex.
What about previously?
So,
Have we gone up? Have we gone down? Have we gone
so in
sideways?
comparison to last July.
Yeah.
Second,
Give her a
All
moment and
time.
she shall pull up that stat.
yeah, here, carry on for a second, why?
Yeah, no, that's fine.
July
So,
2024.
so are you leaning one way or the other, Alex, in
Yeah.
terms of your overall, okay, so you're still data gathering?
Yes,
Okay, very good.
July 2024, we were still independent at that point, and we had. Sorry, scroll. We're down here. 43 calls for service in July of last year.
Which doesn't include, to the best of our knowledge, any calls at the jail.
Correct, so
That's
the
right.
jail calls would have been extracted from this, so we were 56 to 43. I don't know how many jail calls there were, and then last year it was traffic complaints, unwanted party, citizen assist, disturbance and harassment were the top natures last year. No priority 0s, a lot more priority 1s last year, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 9 priority 1s last year. To our 3 in July of this year,
so for me, that's kind of even Stevens, more or less.
more or less.
It's,
Except more violent, priority 1s last year.
There was a lot more priority
So-
1s.
you could potentially lean slightly towards as being a slight decrease for whatever reason.
Right.
And then just if you wanna look at, so just the SO data, so with all of the agencies that Jeff Con uses are on here, so sheriff's office. has 261 calls for service. In this last July, and to 24, they had. Sorry, it's not, it's a little clumsy. I'm getting there.
You're real time dad.
She is, she loves being a day queen.
I do.
Sure.
I know, and if you ever wanna put, and so 246 last year, so they were pretty much dead even last year. Last year, the sheriff's office, this is in 24, their top responses were, motor vehicle accident. Makes sense, assist fire, medical, welfare check, citizen assist or follow-up.
Right. So about the question too, is we had an issue with, our last temporary chief, his personal cell phone, people calling. For those that not gone through, kept counting.
Well, and so that's interesting, yeah, no, and that was through the data, when I went to a JeffCom meeting and Lynette was there.
Well,
We
I
were,
just wanna insert
yeah,
that
they were.
he always claimed that even if they came into his personal cell, he called them into JeffCon so that they would be recorded.
Okay, so it's pretty close. I was just
Yeah,
making sure.
Just, that
No,
was
that's-
what
yep.
was stated in public meetings.
Yep,
Say you
yeah.
already did.
Okay, thank you.
And then the sheriff's welfare, check, motor vehicle, assist fire, medical, it's all the same. So I mean, really what the sheriff's office are dealing with most of the time, especially in the western part of the county, is MVAs,
Is what?
motor vehicles.
Thank you.
Which makes sense.
Okay, Alex.
So if we go down the route of instituting our own police department, my first question would be, how did we come up with a 700 grand cost?
Well, that's in all the material.
Yeah, no,
Right.
it wasn't. It is and it's not. So we looked at various other towns.
But we spent money in our police budget, correct?
We were budgeted for 570.
Yeah.
Which in also in the research I did is pretty low. And I don't fault anybody for that. I think we were kind of just going with what we knew, but Empire is budgeted for 490 in 2025.
But then we have the same issue with hiring an administrator for what we originally were trying to budget for.
Correct. So, I mean, I
Just comparing apples
we-
to apples.
we had a tough budget.
We've been-
We funded,
Yeah,
that
that's
did a good job.
We underfunded our police department.
We did.
And
So
partly the fault of the previous administration of the police department, not stepping up and asking for information. Not, partly on staff and us not demanding a higher level. The biggest ticket item that always came in, was the potential of adding more officers.
So basically, that's where I think the 7 something came in, Dennis, when you put that together. When those numbers were put together, you looked at what currently is being paid, the various police officers and a chief, right? And you
Yes.
included in there costs of vehicles and different things like that. So that's where that number was derived.
okay,
Yes.
but where did the number of 4 individuals come?
So,
Which just happens to match what the sheriff's office is.
correct. So the task force looked at what policing was before and determined it was inadequate and decided we wanted to establish what we would say was our baseline policing, what we needed. So we agreed on what that would be, and I laid out what the tentative scheduling would look like and what number of officers would be required to maintain that. Taking care of PTO, taking care of the higher call volumes that are scheduled in the weekends because we have higher call volumes. And then also having a police chief that works as an administrator half the time and also as a patrol officer half the time. So when I set up that scenario, then I also used I accessed the help of the police chief in Idaho Springs. And he helped me to understand what the current wage rate was for a patrol officer. So I used that wage rate and I fully fringed it. And I included that cost in this cost scenario. So we had 3 police officers that were paid the entry level wage rate that the Idaho Springs patrol officer would be, because obviously we're trying to recruit a patrol officer. We couldn't hope in any situation to recruit anybody paying 60,000 when they're paying 80,000, right? So that was just a very basic assumption that I think everybody would agree was very reasonable. So that goes into the 770. Then we also have to get on a vehicle replacement program because our vehicles are all 8 years old or more. And we have 4 of them. So I propose starting to replace those 1 a year, starting in year 1. So first one, second one. And then every year after that, we would be replacing those every year. So now you're replacing a police vehicle every 4 or 5 years. So that would then cycle into this 770. Now remember, that's just the first year. And then I also incorporated a 3% bump going forward in wages, second year, third year, fourth year. That's very conservative, because if you consider what's happened to inflation recently, that's gonna be more going forward in year 2, 3, 4, and 5. And then what were the other things, Kasia, that we included? Oh, we included some capital money for upgrading our evidence handling, which is only $75,000.
And administrative stuff and a municipal judge and court.
Not the municipal judge, because that was a wash.
Okay.
So if we go with the county, we're gonna have to pay the county judge. If we go here, we're gonna have to pay the municipal judge. So that would be a,
Pay the county judge, that's on top of the 633.
right.
But that was budgeted either way.
Yeah,
Right, so if we do our own police department, we have to pay the municipal judge. If we go with the county, we pay the county judge, so that's not part of this equation because it's a wash. Does that make sense?
Yes.
So that was not part of this decision-making process because it's money out of the town's budget regardless. So. Evidence, vehicles. Oh, yes, then also, when the police department was lost or disbanded. It was, we took a benefit from our liability insurance premiums of $30-some thousand annually. So when we start our police department back up, that cost will come back to us as a new premium addition. So that had to be added back into the budget.
And the chief, we rounded up.
We actually used the chief's salary of the last chief that we had when he left, when he resigned. I think it was 130. Plus, when we fully benefited that cost was put in there. I think that was it.
So to my mind, one of the ways, if we go down the route of having our own police department, would be not to have 4 people, but to have 3.
Well, I was just gonna say, maybe not right away. You know, I mean, maybe we ought to just. And I want you to know now, I've officially changed my mind.
So my point being is that we would still have, of course, to for community members, if they call 911 and our guys, for want of a better word, were busy, they would have to respond.
Not true.
If we only have
The
another.
911 call, they have to respond.
That's not true.
We've,
We've tested that.
Somebody has to respond.
they don't,
They don't.
they don't.
And I understand
I
that you're,
believe that.
So you're saying Jay with them, are they gonna respond?
Yes, of course.
You'd have to have the IGA.
so if you were to do, we looked at that too, Alex, because that was a question. One of the task force members suggested that we ramp up a police department with fewer than what was put in this scenario. And if you could cut back one of the officers, it's still more expensive than the IGA. But I would argue, and let me preface this, I made this note to say to everybody before I started commenting, because I don't want anybody to get the idea that I am advocating one way or the
No,
other.
for sure.
So I am the chief operating officer of this organization and I implement what you direct me to do. So you direct and I do it. I do not advocate. I'm only regurgitating what I've said to the task force and Amanda and Georgia and Mary, if I say something that I'm countering what I said in the task force, please correct me. But I would advocate if you change the scope of the police department ramp up, then I would say change the scope of the IGA and tell the sheriff, you don't want 3 deputies, you want 2. And demand the cost savings from that reevaluation of the scope. So I think it's very important when we have this discussion that it is an apples to apples as close as possible. So if you want 3 deputies, it should be 3 patrol officers in our police department. And if you want a police chief, then you should have a sergeant at least full-time supervising everybody. We have determined that if you do not have good supervision in your law enforcement agency, you have shootings like the Christian Glass shooting because they're not properly supervised and there's not somebody there that's trained to manage your patrol officers in a very difficult and stressful situation. So if we want to cut back and skim back, you're asking for trouble. That's just my advice to you on that. So
Can I ask you a question, Dennis? How is it, I mean, this is for me years of construction. And it always throws up a red flag when somebody can do something for a lot cheaper. We're competing with the same stuff. How can they be that much cheaper? Is it sustainable?
So what is happening here is that you're not paying for their full back office. So you get the sheriff and you get all of his support staff, you're getting the evidence handling, you're getting all the clerical, you're getting their detectives for your pennies on the dollar because the rest of the county is subsidizing that.
Exactly.
Yeah.
The other caveat I think is really important, and I'm so sorry, even if we have 4 officers, we don't have 24/7 coverage. Everybody has to understand that. In any scenario that there's 4 of either agency, there is not 24/7 coverage.
Yeah.
It's not possible. Like we would, I think, what was the math? It was like 6 or
Yes,
7
and we
was,
didn't have 24 coverage
Correct.
when we had it.
that's really important.
So,
But if we have the sheriff's office. In, in either scenario, there has to be an IGA with them to buffer us. We will have to pay for that. They were very, very clear that they're not gonna do it like for free for us. It's, if we go with the route of doing our own police department. There is gonna have to be some buffer IGA that covers us for the event. There is a 911 call that comes in when we are not staffed. And if we have someone out on PTO or something, there.
And what that would be called a mutual aid agreement.
Yeah,
Right.
And when agencies get together and do mutual aid agreements, they have to be confident that the one they're partnering with will show up and do their stuff. And the sheriff said, I don't have confidence that if you go back to doing the way you used to do that, you can show up.
Yeah.
And so this is something that has been on my mind, kept me up, because the question comes about the issue of the deputy leaving town, right? What are we paying for? It's somebody has conversation with me, is there a way to negotiate? Do we get a cost break if they leave town? Can we meter them, so to speak? But I thought about this and then I thought, is the town, and this question came to me from somebody else, is the town gonna implement a restriction on our own people?
Yeah.
Right? That you can't leave town under a mutual aid agreement.
That would be.
And I don't know that that's possible. So if our Georgetown Police Department has a mutual aid agreement, they're leaving, right?
Which we want.
Which we want. And that's the same as if a deputy working for us under an IGA has to go to a shooting in Idaho Springs or Empire or something like that. So these are all, we're having all of these conversations, but in reality, it's a lot of the same thing, I think.
So Alex, did you complete your?
Well,
through-
there's one other thing that. If we go down the route of our own police department and we take your timescales. That to my mind is an additional cost factor. And I don't know whether we factored that in. It's your time, it's staff time.
Oh, I see what you're saying, for oversight.
The cost of acquisition, in other words.
Yeah.
Of looking for a town marshal and.
That's why I asked. them
Well,
what
but
they-
also we would be the staff would be involved, and I'll just interject this real quick, with any kind of negotiation with an IGA as well. So you're gonna have more time involved with Dennis, correct? If we have to reconstitute, if we choose to reconstitute a police department, versus negotiating an IGA. Is that,
But that's a one-time cost.
yeah,
That-
it is.
Otherwise, his time administrating or overseeing that department is the
Right.
same as overseeing water, wastewater, or road and bridge, or
Right.
parks. You have a supervisor or you have a chief in that department and he's dealing directly with that, and that department head is then going forth and carrying out the role of that department. So the one-time cost, I don't think should prohibit us, whether it's the negotiations of an IGA or any kind of a hiring situation. He's involved in that no matter what department that
Right.
is. And so are many of us in different situations. So, you know, that's just part of his job. That's, you know,
It's true.
duties
Yeah, no,
as
it is.
assigned.
And I
Yes.
want to say that if this group, I'm not just blowing smoke, but this group is very good at acknowledging and understanding, prioritizing the projects and what's important. If we're not that understanding and being able to recognize the need to prioritize and just say, Dennis, get everything done tomorrow, we'd have a big problem. And this would be a big problem here, but we don't. So I don't have any issues with that. And
That's
you're right.
executive session after this.
But I'm glad you brought that up because I wanted to make a little note about the issue of the cost. Remember, we brought that up. I made a little note. Are they gonna honor the 633? And I wanted to tell you that I thought about that, and my strategy would be, the first day of negotiation would be, Sheriff Colton, you have to honor the 633. Tell me today you're going to do that. If you're not, we're done. We're walking out and we have to go back and talk to the board.
That's it.
And if you can't commit to that number that you proposed in the task force, then I have to go back to my board of selectmen and we have to have another conversation about this because that changes the game.
Right.
I have 100% confidence that they're gonna say, yes, Dennis, that's what we're doing. We've talked to you about that and we're in the conversation, but I'm not wasting Jerry's time. I'm not wasting my time or your time negotiating an IGA and coming back to you and said, oh, by the way, it's now 690.
Yeah.
No,
Right.
that's not gonna happen.
And here's the deal, like you brought up about the county and their financial situation, you brought up that there's a reason that in those financial meetings with the fire authority and EMS, they're not asking for extra mills for the sheriff's department, because it would not pass because of some of these things that have happened over the last couple of years. So we're probably getting a pretty good deal for 5 years because we are creating a new funding stream that they don't have to go to the voters for in November or April in a special election. They're not having to do extra mills. They're not having to do extra sales tax because we're already collecting those taxes for this municipality. And if they get Georgetown on board, who knows, maybe Empire in the future says, hey, we can't find the right person either. We're gonna give you a half a.
Yeah, but so-
$700,000 represents probably 2 mil in the county on property tax, which equates to about, I think it's $400 or $600 per.
400,000.
Yes,
Yeah.
so now is a very good time if you're Dennis and the town going in, because we're establishing a new funding stream for them. They're gonna suck up some of the costs because there's a good chance in the future, this may provide. Idaho Springs may say, hey, it's getting out of control. We have too much traffic. We can't afford our own police department. We're gonna do like Georgetown. And again, it creates a whole new funding stream, and those things are so difficult to find,
This
especially
is
the
the same
government.
county, this is the same county in God we trust that in 5 years are gonna be broke. Because they're going into their own reserves and they're not gonna be able to fund their own functions, much less our functions. This is the county that we're saying, sure, we know you got our back.
So one of
I
the.
gotta tell you, I know, but I gotta tell you, if one thing that scares the living daylights out of me, it should scare all of you. It's what Jerry said, that if you lose something, it costs a whole lot more to get it back.
So I want to give Alex a chance to finish up and then we're gonna go, let everyone discuss this further. It's, I just want to bring attention to the time. It's 7:25. If we want to close at 8, we can run a little longer if we want to, but out of a respect for time, Alex, why don't you close out? And then we'll take about a half an hour and see where we wind up, okay? Everybody good with that? Okay.
I would say that if we're going down the route of an IGA, that whether it's 3 years or 5 years, we have to have a break clause in there. And I'm not sure that 6 months is, as Amanda kind of suggested or alluded to, is sufficient, considering our estimate of how long it would take for us to go and put in place our own department. You know, I mean, there's in here as potentially as much as 24 months. So, you know, clearly the cost would favor going down with an IGA. But I wonder whether we could, I mean, if I could actually have a conversation with the police sergeant and say, this is the culture that we would like to establish. And okay, maybe I'm talking about a bygone age, which is never ever going to come back, but policemen used to go out on the beat in the streets and meet with people. We don't seem to do that anymore. They seem to be afraid.
White Wolf was one of their own Georgetown Police Department.
Exactly.
because that's what they
Exactly. You know, certainly if we went down our route, we would have control of that culture. And I don't know that we would if we had an IGA.
So your PD, like, let's reconstitute our police department because then we can control the culture. That's important.
Yes, I'm leaning towards that.
Okay, no, that's fine. I get the leaning because I am the same way. Okay, so, at this point, what we want to do, I think, is have everybody talk, ask questions of each other, because we've got, like I said, about 30 minutes to see where we wind up. We're really, this happened on the task force too. We were split in half. This was such a difficult thing of the task force because literally, and I can attest to this in my own feelings, emotionally, I want a police department. Practically, just like Lynette, practically the county seems a quicker, faster, better way to get there and also relieves us of a lot of administrative and back office things that we would have to reconstitute and all of that. But this is a very, and it's an emotional topic. So what I want to make sure of, if anybody is listening, to please, you know, be sure that you know that we are open to your comments if you're out there on Zoom and what have you. And so let's go ahead and start the dialogue.
And we're not voting.
No, we're not,
No, no,
we're not coming to a
tonight.
decision here. What we're doing, and thank you for
Until
saying
Tuesday.
that. That's right. Thank you for saying that. This is for discussion. Sorry, of course.
When I indulge the group and read the recommendation of the task force, because I think this is important. And maybe touches on some of the comments I've heard, but.
Sure.
The task force therefore recommends that the Board of Selectmen enter a long-term IGA with the Clear Creek County Sheriff's Office for the provision of law enforcement services that includes 3 key components. A commitment be made to community policing principles as part of the basic service benchmarks of the IGA, and I think this speaks directly to what Alex just said. Regular performance measures be established and reported to the community as monthly reports to assess performance of the IGA, which also speaks to somebody's comments about how the IGA must have some outs of the contract and also regular reporting. As an annual performance report be required from the sheriff summarizing patrol hours calls for service, offense data, special patrol events requested and fulfilled, staffing updates, changes, and any other mission critical information related to IGA service deliverables. As an aside, I think that the staffing updates and changes speaks to the budget concerns that I've heard over and over this evening. And that would be a trigger to me that if the budget required that the sheriff's office started laying off deputies, that we would be very concerned about the IGA going forward. The task force recommendation was not unanimous. One member strongly believes that Georgetown should reestablish its own police department, emphasizing the value of maintaining local control and other benefits previously discussed. And while I was talking earlier about the continuity of the cost, this certainly will be an issue. The control will decline in terms of going with an IGA. Other members expressed a preference for the proposal offered by the sheriff's office, but noted that they could also support establishing a Georgetown Police Department, provided the community fully understands and accepts the challenges that come with that choice. These challenges include higher cost to taxpayers, possible staffing shortages, long-term budget impacts on other town services, and potential delays to needed infrastructure projects. Reestablishing the Georgetown Police Department would also require thoughtful planning from the start. This would mean putting a clear chain of command in place, setting expectations for a new police chief and supporting that leader, and updating the department's policies and procedures to ensure it operates as a professional, well-trained, and community-focused organization. Moving forward, both options will require commitment from the town's leadership. If Georgetown chooses to reestablish its own police department, our elected officials and administration will need to show diligence and determination in hiring strong personnel to lead and provide professional service. Likewise, if the Board of Selectmen decides to move ahead with an intergovernmental agreement IGA with the Sheriff's Office, our leaders and staff will play an important role in managing that contract and working closely with the Sheriff's team. In either case, the goal is the same: making sure Georgetown's residents are served with respect, compassion, and the highest level of customer care. I thought that was important that we read that the task force was very thorough in their consideration of what was important.
That's on the website, correct?
Yes.
Yes.
So my question for the task force, you guys discussed obviously for the next 5 years for the IGA. But, you know, it's like 0% for 18 months and you get hammered for 25% after that. What happens, you know, for 6 to 10 years? You can't get a deal and not expect to pay for it down the road. You mentioned, look at the Clearview Fire Department. I mean, they need money, but taxes need to get raised. People should fill the gap for that, but they're just not going to. What is this gonna do for us in year 6? Where are we gonna be at with this? I mean, sure, we're projected for 5 years. Are we gonna get crucified then for not taking a year now? What's it gonna cost us then? That's my biggest concern. I mean, look at all this, sure, you know, they're probably all true for their 5 years. It seems easy, it seems good, it seems almost too good. You know, and yeah, I'm not gonna analyze it to death, but I just don't trust after the 5 years. And it's just.
This is outsourcing, and if we start here with our police department, and government services is people. Okay, I don't know what our percentage breakdown is in our budget, shame on me, but we're paying for people, we're paying for service. When we walk into town hall, we expect a person to be there to help us with whatever the situation is, or to direct us to the right place. You know, if you have a problem with your streets, you know, you're walking into Road and Bridge, you have an issue with, you know, a criminal element, you're walking into your police department and getting that. So are we starting to decrease our municipal services and the control that we have now by farming out these different services? So, oh, police is first, jink, okay, got rid of them, oh, look at the money that we're saving, you know? And I'm not saying we shouldn't be saving money, but so which department is next? Whose head is next on the chopping block? Because we're opening the door to that. We can definitely be doing that. And so is that, do we want to lose that control, that opportunity to provide the services to our community by doing that? This was a similar argument that we had in discussion when we imposed the lodging tax. We wanted control of the lodging tax money to support Georgetown and the needs of this community, whether it was tourism, whether it was workforce supporting that, you know, the childcare that supports the workforce, that supports, you know, the affordable housing. We wanted to maintain that control. We wanted to have that control. We wanted to maintain that control.
Well, and I think I would counter, the lodging tax is a good example of an infrastructure issue that we took on, that we are not managing very well. We haven't put enough of it back where we said we would put it. And we can't even collect what, even close to what we believed. We had real numbers. It was math. It was like, we had
Black and white math.
black and white numbers that extrapolated sales tax data that was specifically identified to lodging, and we had 3 to 4 years of that data that we pushed onto that ballot measure of $225,000 max collection. So we wouldn't have to taper it, refund it back. And I mean, I don't even know where we're at right now, but I think the last I saw it was like 131,000, it's half. So I totally respect the fact that we do, I don't view this as farming out. I view this as a collaboration that supports the immediate need of our community. I don't love the position we're in. Unfortunately, we put ourselves in that position. We all coulda, woulda, shoulda. We can't. The only thing we can do now is get control of it. And I understand the need for control. I have concerns about our ability to recruit. We don't have the best reputation as a government entity. And I don't think it's fair, but it's the reality. And I don't have a lot of faith that we're gonna be able to execute a strong chief search in a timely fashion. And then the bigger concern I have is that if we get through this whole thing and we're like, oh my God, we can't find a chief, the sheriffs are like, that's 633, that's 800 now, have fun. And so they've committed, and I don't love the notion that they're like just gonna take our money and then just like never do anything. And I think that's our responsibility to build a document that would change that and ensure that they are doing things. I think they're really professional guys over there and gals, I don't.
Even if we had a police chief, we'd have a contract that said this is what you're supposed to do and this is what we expect from you. Same thing in the IGA.
And so I mean, the lodging tax to me, yes, we want control of that money. We've gotten some of it, but we haven't hit where we wanna be with that. And we've had it for like little pet projects. And we're building on it, but we haven't expensed it in the way that I wanted to see us apply it in, as these, because we didn't collect enough. So it's not like we can go spend it, and we don't have enough.
We took on that lodging tax because why? Because the county wasn't providing us the services.
But we had hard evidence in that moment. We had an opportunity with that House Bill 1117 was out there. We had strong, and it wasn't anecdotal evidence, it was real evidence that showed, hey, we're not getting an ROI on this lodging tax that we're paying in. And that was what it came down to, is we knew we weren't getting that back in marketing or efforts.
Right.
So
I don't think they're the same thing.
So if we go back up to 80,000 feet on this whole thing, what I'm hearing is control. Well, what I think Mary is saying is, hey, we wanted the lodging tax, we wanted to control those monies. And local control is one of the aspects of having a PD here in Georgetown seems to be a very, a big factor to that decision making. But I wanna come off of the lodging tax if we may, and just kind of get back to, what we're talking about
Well,
here.
back to the police department though, but I mean, it's, so I mean, I'm sorry, Amanda, but so you trust the county better, their budget better than our own budget. But I mean, yeah, maybe we're off on that a little bit, but still, it's better if we have it versus somebody else.
I don't think it's.
So I mean, I think our budget is much better than what the county does, just because of the situation they're in.
I don't view it as a trust issue. I think that if we commit to this financial, exchange of goods or services, whatever you wanna quantify it as. The county has to deliver us something. They have to deliver us.
I think that they do.
No,
But I
they
mean-
have to, I mean,
But to
what I
extent?
don't love, I don't like the idea that we're just assuming that the county's not going to do anything when we don't have evidence that they were not gonna do
That they
anything.
would.
I
Can you do it?
understand,
Just
hold
can
tight,
you do it?
we asked them for 18 hours of patrol a week. We got timesheets that showed they were running 18 hours of patrol a week. Were they going above and beyond? I don't know. We got calls about we got their call logs on all the invoices. We saw, this is what they're doing, this is who's the deputies that are on, this is their time. They delivered to us what we asked for, which was 18 hours of randomized patrol coverage based on call data that they got through Jeffcom, and they responded to every call for service, and we paid for that. We paid at a time and a half rate. We didn't, I don't know what the status of pending investigations is. When the task force started, we haven't met with them. We were meeting with them like once a month. And Dennis is here now, so if there's bigger investigations or things. I don't know what the status of those things are, but I don't think that they're not responding. The one thing that we do need to kind of temper the community a little bit is like if you call because there's a barking dog. Or because somebody left buttered toast in your yard, that's a real call, by the way. That is a real call from a long time ago. That they're probably not going to rush over with the SWAT team. There is a tempering that has to happen.
And one of the things I want to interject here too is that the trend is also for a lot of small towns to be moving to county level of policing services.
Morrison,
Because,
Netherlands.
right, Morrison has done it, I can't even remember some of the other ones.
so today when I was.
Netherlands, I think, did the same thing. So, and the reason is budget.
Ray,
The reason is budget, pure and simple. The small towns can't really come up with the funds, and so one of the things that's happening is that this is a trend that people are going to the counties. And I think when these towns have gone to the counties for their services, they don't come away disappointed. I have not read that, and maybe I'm looking to Amanda all the time because she's always on her computer. I haven't read any statistics that says, oh, you know, we're not getting the level of service that we want. Now, I'm not advocating for that, but I'm simply saying it's a trend. This is what's happening. And I think going to the county would not give us less service, but I do think we'd have to be very structured in what we put together with the county if we go that route.
But is that an acceptance of the level of service and going back to the comment that Jerry had made in the previous meeting?
Yeah.
It's like, once you make this decision, it's like we never going back.
Well, are those other
So-
cities in the same, do they have the
Is it
same
Rocky
issues our
Mountain?
county are having with their budget? Or they have the
so you rate just through a similar scandal.
Yes, because it is a budget
I think
issue.
they're
like
like-
it's
Not
already-
I would call it a similar scandal. They
Yeah, that I don't know.
they're
I'm not talking
all
about.
different
I'm
issues.
talking about the whole.
So if we're talking about the whole count, did you have, I know, Rob, you've got something.
No, I was watching, I'm listening, I'm using my ears and my mouth in the proportion that they.
Together the gallery talk.
Yeah,
Okay,
okay.
so I have a question, and I've been reading information that's within this report, and I read over the sheriff's budget and breakdown on manpower and whatnot. So from the selectmen room, how many people do you think you're getting for 633 from the sheriff's department?
4.
You're getting 3. So according to their own briefing, they break it down, it's 3 people. It's 3 deputies. Now, if you read the services within your report, your task force report, it says there will be a dedicated Georgetown patrol sergeant. And then deputies will be assigned to Georgetown, but will also have responsibilities to other areas of the county, da, 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 da. But when you go to the sheriff's briefing, he talks about 633, that's for 3 deputies only. And it's probably a supervisor who's already on duty is that 4th person.
That would make sense with the.
That's why you have a difference, that's why you get a cheaper cost.
So 3 deputies regarding the 3, there was, where's the graph that said sergeant 3 deputies that we saw? There's a graph that
Yeah,
exists that I remember saying patrol sergeant 3 deputies, so I really appreciate this.
Right here.
Yeah, it's on that.
I'm not trying to step on.
No,
No, that's not, no. This is what we put together. Come up and look at this. You're welcome to come see it. Is it in there? Okay.
It's true. The sergeant is going to be running around chasing after the deputies on every call and every move they make.
Yeah.
That person is going to have other duties as assigned, and when that supervision is needed, that person is going to be called in. So as Mike's interpreting it, it's a difference between.
So it's an administrative value.
But it's still 144 hours a week coverage. I think I'm more focused on that. If the sheriff has a structure
I don't have that in my packet. Okay. So you
in
can have that.
place for 144 hours of
Oh, I didn't
coverage,
look at that.
that to me is a more finite commitment. But if they have to send us 7 deputies or 2 deputies, We're focused on the 3 deputies because we don't want people to leave town. That's what it comes down to. We don't want people to leave town,
Supervisor is not.
right?
Supervisor is not.
Right.
But they have to.
But he's still assigned as a
They're going
supervisor.
Okay, so let's just, I wanna just stop a second. This is in your packet, as Tamara just pointed out, it's on the back of one of your sheets. So for those of you who do have the packet or go online to get the packet, here's where that is. One of the conversations that just happened right here between Dennis and Mike, if you wanna just, elaborate on that, that we're not necessarily paying for a sergeant, but we will have the benefit of the sergeant.
Right, and there's a
Yeah.
further clarification document in the attachment that Captain Rubin provided on the request of the task force, because this did come up from somebody attending one of the meetings.
Mhm.
Captain Rubin wrote in an email, I think it's dated July 29th, my meters are out of. I need to breathe. It's getting that bad. But, he did clarify that question. He said regarding the 3 proposed deputies assigned to Georgetown, so he's coming right out saying there's 3.
3 deputies.
We may consider assigning a sergeant and 2 deputies to patrol the town. So what he's saying is they're gonna have the supervisor, but he may also be one of the patrol. Okay. Or 3 deputies to patrol the town and the designate as the CCSO sergeant, who is also has responsibility supervising in other areas, to act as a Georgetown point of contact. So basically, he's saying that the sergeant that's on assignment on that shift might be supervising also, I think he called it the eastern.
Part of the county, yeah.
Yeah, but also has responsibility supervisory to this central sector. County has the supervisor here, but we're not paying for that. So the cost proposal includes the 3 deputies, we're just not paying for that supervisor, that sergeant, but that sergeant is assigned to the central district. They're calling it the Georgetown district.
He's, and will be handled in all.
Yes.
If that members guy, this starts, this has to factor in. I got it, I understand what they're doing as far as supervisory
Yeah.
responsibilities.
Right.
It makes total sense.
Right.
Fiscally responsible, but you cannot factor them in as being part of the law enforcement within Georgetown. So that's part of my apple to oranges argument.
Oh, okay, that's fine.
Right, it's the
Yeah.
same thing with Captain Rubin, for example. So Captain Rubin is the next step up in the hierarchy there, in the chain of command from the sergeant. Captain Rubin is not always on shift, but when they need that next level supervisor, the sergeant is calling Captain Rubin and says, we have a, what'd you call it, 0 call?
Oh, priority 0.
Priority 0, so it's all hands on deck, we're calling people in, and all supervisors are coming in. Captain Rubin's getting in his car from Denver and he's driving into Georgetown to come to the scene. And so we're not paying for that either, but Captain Rubin is serving Georgetown. Does that make sense? Okay.
I got a quick question. I mean, so based off of what's necessary, we're obviously not gonna get 24/7 coverage. There's probably no else. But basing off of that, I mean, if we really look at, you brought that about, it's crime statistics. I mean, do we really need 3 officers? I mean, we've come by so much with 2 officers and even 1. The crime seems to be that up and down.
The problem with that though, is that we then still have to have a call for service agreement, a paid call for service agreement. Everyone has to
Right.
understand that. The sheriff, the days of them just like trotting around and helping us out to be nice are bygone. Like that's not happening. They're gonna pay it, we're gonna pay for calls for service. And if we have people on vacation or somebody's out sick or somebody is off shift. And the other thing is, we can't just work them to death. We had a huge problem. All of us, happening to John, and John was like, I gotta go, I have to be here to all the calls, and they were like, John, you really need a rest.
So what if we had a police department, like years ago, what if things would work out, we had a chief officer? Wouldn't we, so you're saying that you don't think we would have ever preferred to have a police?
I
department?
believe that this eventually would have evolved into a situation where we were gonna have to start paying for calls for service. The sheriff's being very, very clear. They cannot continue to supplement law enforcement throughout the county, and this is not unique to our community. And I asked, when I had this conversation, I was like, what about Silver Plume, for example? And Silver Plume apparently has so few calls, they're very minor, and so I think they kind of view Silver Plume as like a non sequitur, but there's other parts of the county that are going to have these evolutions, and I don't wanna speak for those municipalities, that's not fair, but the sheriff cannot just like have his guys bandage everybody's law enforcement, no charge, and so, yeah, if we have two officers, that's totally fine, it's very valid. But if one of them's sick, or one of them's out on leave, or one of them is on vacation, and the other guys are way down by King Murphy, then we're in the same boat.
No, and I guess with Silver,
And
but
so-
I mean, look when they called and how many people showed up.
Yeah, I mean, but so, all these, like,
I don't know if that's good.
if we don't have something in place, we're still in the same position where law enforcement services are not going to be adequate, and I totally respect, again, the control thing, I am a massive control freak, I get it. It is difficult for me to justify to you guys that you're gonna have to spend 18 months at minimum before we have this figured out, and your property taxes are gonna go up. Like, I have a hard time with that, I feel guilty.
I don't think we can compete. I don't think we
And
can
I'm
compete
I'm
against
also, I'm
larger,
really, yeah, if we were in a better position,
either sheriffs or.
there's so much infrastructure that has to get resolved. And I would like the control, and I wish I had told me a year ago, go hire a police chief today, like, you left,
But we still,
Sucks
it
to be you.
wouldn't matter anyway though, but based off what you're saying, it wouldn't matter, we would still at some point have to go with the sheriff's department.
I mean, yeah, that was.
It's gonna have to be right. Oh,
Well,
God.
one last thing I'll say is, Jerry made that, so when Jerry made a point of, once you go with it, you never really go back because it costs too much. Which he also mentioned too, that meant that towns obviously wanted to look at going back to one police department for all reasons. When I was mentioning to you on the budget, it's not the sheriff's department's budget. I just find it odd that over this last amount of time, they want our building department, they want our police department. You know, yeah, what's next? You know, I mean, heck, I mean, maybe they want Dennis's job, and I get why, you know, it's a source of income, you
You know,
mentioned that.
We're.
Maybe they want that.
They
cannot have that, that's not.
So look, they never wanted our building department before until it benefited them. So is this any different? You have to think about both sides of it, why, and Amanda, you helped me out a lot with this, I get it, but then I think about year 6, where does that put us at? You know, you say property tax is going up, to me, I think long term,
At least in
everything, I
year
don't think
6.
now. I think now, can I live in Colorado in 20 years? Because of what my property taxes are gonna be, because of what my homeowner's insurance is gonna be. So if I get a deal now for the next 5 years, that means nothing to me if I still can't live here in year 6 through 10.
In year 6, I could look at this and go, in year 4, I could start to, and I don't know if I'll still be here then. Let's see, will I still be here?
Yeah, we're still here.
Okay, in year 4 or in year 3, I could look at this logistically and say, okay, this is probably shaking out that we have to start making contingencies. And we have to start figuring this out, and then at least we have a year or 2 years to do a police chief search that is rooted and meaningful and not rushed, and find the person and then say, thank you so much, sheriff's office, but we really are going after this again, it's really important to our community. But we're not getting this huge lapse of time that we're facing in this moment now, and that's, I mean. If we are gonna have to go into a call for service IGA with the sheriff's office, if we go in for our own police department, it isn't gonna there will be no patrol coverage for 18 months.
Well, we'll have some with the county because. we have
An
some-
hour a day.
Well, and so Dennis, did you wanna comment?
I just wanted to say 2 things to what Dwayne has been saying, and that is, I respect Jerry, but what Jerry's comment about, you go with it and you're never gonna get it back, which is not really true. So we are not gonna be any different or worse off in 5 years than we are today. We have no police department today.
Yeah.
So if we choose to do our own thing today, we're starting it from scratch, except for a couple vehicles that are sitting without batteries or equipment.
With the wrong logo on it.
And in 5 years, when we decide to do that, we're basically in the same situation. We could start our own police department.
Well, I respect that.
And my projections show it's gonna cost about $800,000. year 6. And that's if nothing goes screwy with the economy, or if, you know, one of the police agencies down the hill, see how I use the lingo now?
Oh, you're a local now.
I think it's Lakewood. They have in their union contract now that it's just automatic, that they are always the highest paid police agency in the metro area.
Right.
So if Denver Police Department negotiates a new union contract that raises them above Lakewood, Lakewood automatically surpasses them the next day. So you can just imagine what that's gonna look like in the metro area in 6 years, and we're competing with those police officers, right?
That's right.
The town of Denver is laying off, they didn't hire 600 positions, they laid off almost another 200. And the police, Chief Thomas had to answer questions because the police are still getting a 3% raise, because it's in the contract. It's in the.
So I mean, so
Give the
basically,
government minimum
that's
premium.
still, so it's apples to apples. I mean, yeah, it would be tough if we fought against the sheriff's department, I get that. Sheriff's department's also fighting against officers elsewhere. My only concern is what we have here and what we're capable of.
That's right.
My concern still is with the sheriff's department, because they could lose officers too, and if that's out of our control, even with an IGA. The county did massive cuts. I mean, I don't know anybody in the county more that I used to love to deal with. They're gone. Like, they're not coming back. So I mean, and what happens, it's just, and this is for you, I mean,
Yes.
Yeah.
controlling our own police department, you controlling that, which you can't. I mean, at the end of the day, if they lose officers, if all their officers choose to quit, we're not being protected anyway.
Yes, right.
You know, so I mean, I'm not leaning more one way or the other. I'm just saying that's just the future.
And I will say this, I'm really good at what I do, and you pay me a premium for being good at what I do. And if you tell me to do a police department, I'm gonna do it. But I can't guarantee you that it's gonna turn out well.
I'm not saying that.
I can't, because we're running into the recruiting wall.
Right.
Yeah.
Competing.
We're gonna compete wall,
Yeah,
but
and-
we're gonna do our,
We got to that point,
right, but we're gonna really work hard to do that.
But the county has that same,
Absolutely.
They're doing the
we're
same
not
stuff.
any different than the county or Idaho Springs or even Lakewood. The reason that they're paying so well, God bless them, they can afford it, but they also too have a problem with recruiting. I mean, that's nationwide.
So let
So
me ask you the biggest question, if the people of Georgetown want a police department, is everybody willing to pay for it? Cause that's, look.
So
I mean,
we look-
That's right planning, yeah.
Well, no,
Right planning again.
no, and I was gonna say the next thing too, because I just talking with, one of the county commissioners last night. It's unique because everybody wants to be bros, but then cool, we gotta raise taxes, but we don't want to pay for it.
Exactly.
So it's like, but they don't care. And at the end of the day, none of us wanna pay more, period. I don't wanna pay more in taxes, but I'd like to have a nicer road. I got a beautiful road outside my house and I got a nice stop sign.
So are we willing as a board of selectmen, when we go into our budget process, which has started at our last meeting, and we're going to start seeing more of it. Are we willing to make, and this is just a question, I'm asking myself this. Are we willing to make cuts in other areas in order to support a police department? Where is the priority of a police department, our own police department? Where's the priority of our of roads and road and bridge? Where's our priority of parks? We're paying a lot, we're doing a lot with our parks. You know, are we putting, rhetorical question, are we putting parks above police? Not to put a fear factor in there, but are we saying that our parks are more important to this community than a police department? And we just have to make those calls. No answer needed. I don't even have the answer to that question, but that's what we have to decide over the next couple of months.
But think about this, 2 years ago, look what we were paying for an administrator. And look what we were willing to pay for an administrator and assistant, and look at what we get for that. And it was worth it, 100%. And I don't think nobody would disagree with that.
I know, I think you're getting the right.
Split second. I didn't know where you were heading.
My God, that was a little bit frightening. White knuckles.
I'm good at that, sorry.
So it is now 8 o'clock, and I'm guessing that we're not gonna make a decision today anyway. I'm really glad that we had our audience here. I did want to say that
Good one.
I would propose the following. I would propose that we follow the same program that we set out last week, which is tomorrow, that this, the task force recommendation get posted on the website. I think it's already out there, so we just put a notice out on social media, on the town website and on our Facebook page that, hey, don't forget, this is out there. We're soliciting your comments. Please get back to us. And then at our meeting for next Tuesday, our regular meeting, we make sure that people know and understand they can come in and make comments and what have
And you
you.
can come back and make more comments.
Yay, does that work?
We were just commenting today about how, oh yeah, we have to put an agenda packet together this week.
Yes.
Yeah, so we're working on that.
And that's good, and
And then-
and getting this posted tomorrow and then in the newsletter, and I know it's a lot.
We're
and, you
doing
know,
that, and then also this mailing,
Yeah.
I'll change the word,
Thank you.
okay?
That was
But
my word.
This
actually.
idea was, the recommendation packet is too large for us to mail to everybody.
Mhm.
But we wanted to do a simple mailer to everyone like we did with the transportation plan for leaf peeping.
Right,
And this is the template we came up with to direct everybody to the website. To get the report, also, if you want the report, we will email it to you, or you can come in and pick up a hard copy. Is everybody?
yes, I think
Content
that's
with that?
important. And can this go out tomorrow, do you think?
Yes, yes.
That would be great. Because-
Assuming that the post office has their tool.
We cannot mail it tomorrow. We can post it tomorrow, but we can't mail it tomorrow. That takes a lot of time, so.
And I'm happy to come in and help, so you just tell me,
Okay.
because you knew my excellent folding
You are
skills at this
great,
point.
and
Thank you. That's right, so
Okay,
we do want to make sure.
When would it be mailed?
Yeah.
Because if we left our last board meeting with an understanding that this task force information was going to be posted the following day, it was not. That there was going to be a, solicitation for input the next day, and then the following, the Friday in the newsletter, and on the town social media, the Facebook page, not the Visit Georgetown Facebook page, but the Town of Georgetown Facebook page. Trying to, and posting throughout the community, maybe it shouldn't just be limited to the three areas here, the library and the post office type thing. So when is the earliest this can be mailed out? Reasonably giving people a time to be, not at the last minute on Tuesday when they get their mail, oh, this just came on Monday.
We can have it out at the post office by Friday.
But is that, no,
We
this
can do
book
Friday
doesn't.
morning. We can do Friday morning.
Cause we have to fold this by hand, and then we have to run this through the printer by hand and then deliver it through the post office.
And I will help, I will come help.
Assuming the tool is working, it was broken,
Yes.
Right, last
like
time.
the post
And we
office.
can't do anything about that.
Mine was
But here's the main push of this, and you know this, and everybody on this board knows this, and everyone knows this. We want to be sure that as many people as possible know what's going on, understand they have an opportunity to comment, to get online, to read this recommendation, and to give their feedback. That is the single most important thing. This board and Lynette certainly dealt with this a lot in the past year. It's been an absolute topic of importance. You can see the conversation, you can see how it's, but this, it's very hard to land in one solid place. So I just want to be sure, and that's our point of all of this, is that it's posted on the town website, posted on Facebook page, get it,
It
whatever.
will not
we
be
can-
on the Facebook page.
Why not?
Why not?
We cannot get into the Facebook page.
The town or Facebook
The
page?
town Facebook page. We cannot get into it. The phone number that was used to admin
Oh, yeah.
is under the control of someone else, and we
I
cannot
understand.
get access to that.
Okay,
So
thank you for saying that. I didn't.
we are now considering starting up our own new Facebook page
Good,
again,
okay.
but that takes time.
But in the meantime, we will do that. So, okay, so we will go
please let's
with our
not put it
town
on the
website.
Georgetown page.
Okay, well, we will push it out.
Yes, and that's the main.
With links on social.
And as quickly as possible. So that would be it. Okay, so, are we all good going forward that way, board?
Yeah.
One thing I do wanna say really fast, I think there was, I think we need to be able to give some type of, even if we're not settled on a firm direction on Tuesday night. We have to follow up with the county, there was comments that were made about the IGA. That we're currently in at the commissioners meeting, it was not very favorable about going into this specific MOU, I'm sorry, excuse me. I misspoke.
MOU, right.
So, my bad. That we're in currently, And there's potentially just, we need to be communicative about what, where we're at.
And I agree with that, because I've heard that same thing, and so.
Well, yeah, we have to get, we owe it to people to tell them what we're doing.
That's
And
right,
so, as soon as possible.
and then you're
Not
not
just
the
our
county
community, but
commissioners.
everybody.
Okay, so do we need a motion to say that we're gonna move forward that way?
But I just
As we
think
did
one,
last week?
Can't make any decision.
Right.
We just,
Yeah,
yeah,
can't make a motion.
no voting.
No voting, thank you, that's
I'll
right.
accept something.
Thank you, when it's like, no, don't vote.
Sorry.
to Dwayne's point about what happens in year 6. We've already had previously some conversation that when it comes to the budget, that perhaps we could look at a 5-year and a 10-year rolling plan. Any normal business has a 5-year plan and a 10-year plan, you know. And so there's no reason why, even from day one, if we go with the sheriff's department, that we don't actually institute, not to undermine them.
Right.
At all. But to have a mind to that longer term scenario.
Those long-term commitment.
Mhm.
You know, this idea that maybe the 3 deputies or 2, you know, because I referred to it earlier as 3.5. So, you know, thanks, Mike, for pointing that out about the sergeant. You know, whether it's 2.5 or 3.5 people who are going to serve this community, whether it's from our end or from their end.
Mhm.
There's no reason why we cannot have some sort of rolling business plan. Not as and I repeat strongly, not to undermine the sheriff's department at all.
Mhm.
But I heard some comment earlier that maybe the dream might be that these guys fall in love with Georgetown. In which case, perhaps we could look at what that might look like in terms of what incentives we could offer them, whether it is sign-on bonuses, additional to whatever Clear Creek has in mind, or housing opportunities, or something along those lines.
Which
Maybe
is,
like a pension.
right,
Well,
You know,
so,
some
yeah,
tax
that's
relief,
part of it. That's
those are
part of
great
it.
golden acres.
The
part of
county
the
is
county.
currently, in the process of we voted on it last year. The 1A, basically it's allows them to,
The FPPA.
thank you.
FFPA or FPPA or something.
Yeah, so the
Yeah.
county's in the process of, we would basically be the same. Yeah,
Right.
so, yeah.
So. Good? Good. All right, well, thank you very much. We are adjourned at 8:09. Thank you, members of the audience.
Yeah, thanks for coming.
Really appreciate it.
Appreciate
Love
it.
when people show up. Thank you.
Can we check if it's a voting line?
But-
If it's
There's no one else.
There's no